The air inside forward operating Base Harbinger was thick with red dust and diesel fumes, a choking mix of sun-baked dirt and the bitter exhaust of idling Humvees. The afternoon light slanted hard across the compound, cutting through the haze like blades of brass. The men of SEAL Team 9 moved in a loose semicircle near the firing range, helmets unbuckled, sleeves rolled up, sweat glinting on their forearms. They were laughing. Down the range, a lone figure stood against the Afghan sun, smaller, leaner, her posture straight despite the heat pressing against her shoulders. Her name patch read Mendoza, Staff Sergeant Elise Mendoza, Marine Corps sniper, recently reassigned from Sanjan Valley operations for rehab and reassessment after a roadside blast tore through her convoy 8 months prior. Her limp was subtle now, a small unevenness that most missed until she moved fast. But not the SEAL. They noticed everything. And they saw her as broken. Careful, Mendoza called Lieutenant Kruger the team leader, his tone light but his grin too sharp. Don't strain that leg. Don't want to send you back to physical therapy before you even fire a round. A few chuckled. Someone muttered, "Marine sniper, my ass," under his breath. Elise didn't look up. She adjusted the scope of her N40A6, the stock snug against her shoulder, cheek resting on cool composite. She blinked once, slow and steady, letting the desert light narrow to a single circle of glass and breath. She squeezed. The shot cracked. The target, 900 meters out, shuddered. A hole appeared dead center. Through the heart, silence. The SEAL turned one by one. No smirk, no comment, just a faint, grudging shift in their expressions. Elise chambered another round, exhaled through her teeth, and fired again. This one sliced through the target's upper left quadrant, a shot grouping tight enough to press 2 fingers over. Then she stood, gathered her brass, and walked back toward the shade, ignoring the heat radiating from the men's stares. Lieutenant Kruger called after her, still trying to keep the laughter alive. "2 good shots don't make a legend, Sergeant." She didn't answer, didn't even turn her head. Her silence stung worse than a retort. Inside the chow tent, the air was cooler but heavy with the smell of reheated rations and instant coffee. Elise sat alone at a corner table, her tray barely touched. An apple, a protein bar, and a folded copy of her training notes. Around her, the base pulsed with low conversations. Bursts of jokes, metallic clangs of utensils, bursts of radio chatter. Across the room, Kruger's men had claimed the center table, loud and sprawling, a kingdom of confidence and call signs. They'd just come back from a recon op south of Jalrez, and their swagger filled the room like gun oil. "Yo, you see that?" One of them, Petty Officer Steele, said, tossing his fork onto the tray. "They sent her here for observation, right? Guess the Corps is out of options." "Probably just politics," another replied. "They need female representation on sniper rosters. It's a PR move. She's got the patch, doesn't she?" Kruger said, half smiling. "Let her prove it." That's when she stood, quietly collected. She didn't storm or speak, just moved to discard her tray, head-high, steps measured. But Kruger couldn't leave it there. "Hey, Sergeant," he called, loud enough for the whole tent to hear. "Word is you took a piece of shrapnel through the thigh in Sanjin, yeah? What's the story?" Bad luck or bad timing? The laughter that followed wasn't cruel exactly. It was the kind that soldiers use to test boundaries. But for Elise, it wasn't new. She'd been laughed at before, at boot, at recon school, at sniper qualification. Every laugh had burned itself into the long, quiet chambers of her will. She looked at him, not long, not sharp, just steady. "Neither," she said. It was bad leadership. The tent went still. Someone coughed. Kruger's smirk faded for just a moment, then came back colder. Elise walked out. Outside, the Afghan evening was fading from orange to bruised violet, the air humming with generators and the faint buzz of insects. She moved past the wire fence toward the makeshift firing range again. This was where she felt balanced, the desert stretching endless, the scope's reticle anchoring her in silence. She lined up another shot, this time on a target 1,200 meters out. Wind was low, left to right at about 4 knots. Her finger settled against the trigger, and then she heard boots behind her. couldn't get enough of the range?" Kruger said, his tone half taunting. "Or you just don't like company? Depends who's offering it," she replied. He laughed, lowering his rifle beside her bench. "You know, Mendoza, I used to train new shooters at Coronado. I could teach you a thing or two about long-range wind calls." She didn't respond, just adjusted her sight again. "Come on," he said. "I'm trying to help you out here." Elise exhaled through her nose. "I've had plenty of teachers," she said finally. Most of them didn't talk this much. He watched her. For the first time, he noticed something. The way her hands didn't tremble, the way her breathing synced with the shifting dust, the way she seemed to dissolve into the rifle as though it were part of her body. She pulled the trigger. The round hit steel, a clean, resonant clang that echoed across the plain. Kruger lifted his binoculars, eyes narrowing. The shot had landed within half an inch of dead center. "Wind's picking up," she said quietly. "You might want to adjust your call." She didn't wait for a reply. She collected her brass, slung the rifle, and started back toward the barracks, her limp visible now in the twilight. Kruger stayed there, staring downrange, his pride tightening in his chest. That night, the desert wind shifted. It carried with it the dry scent of cordite and something else, something tense. The base lights flickered against the sand, and rumors whispered through the tents like static. An insurgent convoy had been spotted 5 clicks east, small, fast-moving, likely probing for a weak point. SEAL Team 9 was on standby for intercept. Kruger briefed his men, the routine crisp and quick. Map overlays, callouts, extraction times. Elise wasn't part of the OP technically. She was still under medical evaluation and not assigned to active rotation. But she listened anyway, from just outside the tent, as the plan unfolded. When the team geared up, Kruger noticed her near the Humvees. "You're not on this one, Mendoza," he said. "I know," she replied. "But you're headed toward the ridge by Sector Foxtrot, right?" "Yeah. Why?" "There's a crosswind channel through there," she said, tapping the map. "East to west between the hills. You'll lose visual if you set overwatch on the south side. Take the north ridge instead. Cleaner sightline, better cover." Kruger looked at her, skeptical. "Noted," he said flatly, and turned away. She didn't press, just nodded once and watched them leave. 6 silhouettes swallowed by the Afghan dark. Hours passed. The night grew colder. Elise sat alone on the sandbags near the perimeter fence, the stars overhead like cold shrapnel across the sky. She could hear the faint chatter of the radio, the soft hum of the wind moving through razor wire. Then the static changed, sharp, broken, urgent. "Echo Team, we've got movement." Multiple contacts. Ambush. The rest dissolved into noise. Elise froze. Then she was moving, grabbing her pack, slinging her rifle, sprinting toward the command post. The duty officer, a young corporal, tried to block her. "Ma'am, you're not cleared." "Where's their location?" she demanded. "Grid 9 Bravo," he stammered, her stomach clenched. That was exactly where she'd told Kruger not to set overwatch. She didn't wait for permission. She ran. The desert was alive with distant flashes by the time she reached the ridge, the crack of suppressed rifles, the glow of tracer fire cutting the night. She dropped to her belly, sliding behind a rock outcrop, breath shallow. Through her scope, she saw them. Kruger's team pinned behind a broken wall, muzzle flashes sparking from both flanks. They were outnumbered, boxed in, no visibility on the shooters across the dunes. Elise adjusted elevation. Wind call, holdover. One target at the ridge crest, faint heat signature, barely visible. She centered it and squeezed. The figure dropped. She shifted right, another flash, another body. Her rifle whispered through the chaos, each shot deliberate, each hit clean. She wasn't part of the mission. She wasn't supposed to be here. But she had eyes, aim, and 8 years of combat memory that her limp could never erase. Within minutes, the firing slowed, then stopped. Kruger's voice came over comms, tight with disbelief. "Who the hell's covering us?" Elise lowered her rifle, heart hammering. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. The SEAL regrouped, dragging a wounded man toward the extraction point. She watched from the shadows, her pulse syncing with the distant thrum of a Black Hawk spinning toward them. When they lifted off, she stayed behind, silent under the stars, the wind tugging her hair loose from its tie. She didn't need recognition, just to know they'd made it out. Back at the base, dawn was rising, pale light crawling across the wire. The team returned, dusty, exhausted, shaken but alive. Kruger stepped off the helicopter, eyes bloodshot, jaw tight. He saw her waiting near the motor pool, rifle slung, uniform smudged with dust. "You left the base," he said. "I heard comms go bad," she replied. "I reacted. You could have been court-martialed for that." "I know." He stared at her, searching for anger, for pride, for anything he could name. All he found was calm. "You saved my men," he said quietly. "Your men saved themselves," she replied. "I just made sure they had the chance." And then she walked past him, limp pronounced, shoulders steady, eyes fixed on the horizon where the desert met the sky. Kruger watched her go, something heavy in his throat that he couldn't quite swallow. The men nearby, the same ones who had laughed at her days before, fell silent as she passed. Not because she demanded it, but because silence was the only thing that felt respectful enough. And somewhere inside him, for the first time, Kruger felt the sharp sting of regret, not because she'd proved him wrong, but because she'd done it without ever needing to say a word. The desert was quiet. Too quiet. That kind of quiet where even the wind seemed to be holding its breath. Sergeant Riley Cross pressed her cheek against the rifle stock, her eye locked into the scope, her heartbeat syncing with the rhythmic pulse in her finger. From this ridge, she could see the whole valley, the cracked village road twisting like an old scar, the mud-walled compounds, the goats wandering through dust that never seemed to settle. She was their overwatch now, the lone guardian above a joint Navy SEAL recon team moving into the valley below. 3 days ago, no one had wanted her here. Now, they didn't move without her green light. Her radio crackled. "Eagle 2, this is Viper lead. We're approaching the compound. Any movement, any movement." Riley adjusted her scope, breath steady. "Negative, Viper, area's cold. But there's heat shimmer near the second building, north wall." A pause. "You sure?" "Always am," she said. There was a smile in her tone, but her eyes were all business. She dialed in the rangefinder. "Wind at 4 knots. Quartering left. Distance, 622 meters. Target height, approximately 6 feet. Silhouette inconsistent with civilians." She knew the math before she even thought it. Her body was the equation. The shimmer resolved. The glint of metal. A rifle muzzle peeking out from behind a curtain. Her finger tightened. Exhale, crack. The shot echoed across the valley like a heartbeat that refused to stop. The shimmer disappeared. Inside the compound, chaos erupted. Down below, Chief Danner, the SEAL team leader, cursed into his mic. "Goddamn Cross, you're quicker than my trigger finger." Riley smirked. "That's 'cause you're old, Chief. You're buying the first beer when we get back," he said. "If you can keep up, then movement." A dozen figures burst from behind the compound, darting between walls, firing HEs toward the ridgeline. Bullets cut through dust and rock. Riley's calm never wavered. She adjusted, clicked her bolt back, and began her work. 1, 2, 3. Each shot a whisper, each breath a promise. She didn't need anyone to see her. The rifle was her voice, her defiance, her quiet power. But one round cracked too close. Rock splintered near her head, sending dust into her mouth. She spat, rolled down the ridge, and found cover behind a boulder. Then the radio came alive again. But this time, it wasn't her team. It was another frequency. Local chatter, dairy language. Fast, desperate. She caught a word. GHO, the ghost. They were talking about her. That night, after the firefight, the SEAL team regrouped in the burned-out remains of the compound. Danner lit a cigarette, passed it to her. "Don't smoke," she said. He shrugged. "You earned it." The moonlight filtered through the broken roof, painting everything in shades of silver and ash. "You ever think about going home?" he asked. She stared through the gap in the wall, at the mountains cutting into the stars. "I don't think home remembers me anymore." He studied her. "You think you're doing this for the Corps, huh? For the mission? I think you're doing it for something else." Riley's jaw tightened. "You think too much, Chief." But she didn't sleep that night. She lay awake with her rifle beside her, staring at the horizon. Somewhere out there, the man they called Mullah Rahim, the insurgent sniper commander, was watching too, and she knew the next move would be his. By dawn, the air was heavy with heat and omen. Intel came through. Rahim's network was moving, planting wide across the northern route. They needed eyes up top again. Riley volunteered before the sentence was finished. The ridge was higher this time, the wind harsher. She moved like a shadow, setting up her scope. The terrain below was a maze of gullies and stone huts. Perfect for ambushes. Hours passed. The kind of stillness that made your own heartbeat sound like artillery. Sweat pooled under her gloves. Then she saw it, a flash of fabric near a culvert. A figure carrying a radio. Not Rahim too young, a runner. She steadied the rifle, then a glint from the opposite ridge. Her breath froze, scope panned left. There he was. Rahim himself, calm, deliberate, already sighted in on her. Their eyes met through two pieces of glass, separated by distance and blood. The world narrowed to that single moment. He fired first. The round slammed into her cover, splintering rock. She didn't flinch, rolled sideways, re-aimed, adjusted her elevation, and fired back. Her bullet cut through wind and silence, but Rahim was gone. He'd moved clever and ghost-like. The radio hissed, Danner's voice, "Cross, you good?" "I'm fine," she lied, but she wasn't. The idea that someone had finally seen her, that someone out there was matching her precision, reading her like she'd read 1,000 targets, rattled her more than the bullet had. For the first time, Riley Cross felt hunted. Night fell again. The team exfiltrated, but Riley stayed behind, against orders. She needed to find him. She moved through the rocks like smoke, rifle low, boots silent. The stars above the Afghan desert looked like cold eyes watching. Every sound, the crunch of gravel, the distant bark of a dog, pressed against her nerves. Then from the darkness ahead came a voice. "You shoot like the Americans," it said, English accented, mocking. Riley froze. "And you die like the men I've met before," she replied, a soft laugh. Then silence. Her finger found the trigger. Wind whispered through the canyons. She didn't fire, not yet. Not until she saw his eyes, because when she did, she wanted him to know who'd ended him. By dawn, the SEAL team found her position empty, her radio silent. Only her pack remained, marked with the Corps insignia and a single bullet casing polished clean. "Cross, this isn't funny," Danner said into the comm. No reply. Somewhere beyond the mountains, a rifle cracked once, then silent. The wind moved like a whisper over the ridgeline, carrying dust and the faint smell of cordite. The mountains of Helmand stood jagged and cold against the early dawn, unforgiving, ancient, indifferent to the lives lost beneath their shadow. From the east, the light crept over the barren slopes, cutting through the gray like a blade of fire. Somewhere in that half-light, Staff Sergeant Riley Cross lay prone behind a scope, her cheek pressed into the stock, eyes unblinking, heart steady. She hadn't slept. No one had, not really. The operation had gone wrong 2 nights ago. The ambush, the mortar fire, the collapse of the eastern wall of Outpost Serpent. 3 men were dead, 1 still missing. Lieutenant Harris, the SEAL team leader, was alive but quiet now, the weight of guilt finally settling where pride once stood. Riley hadn't spoken much to him since. She hadn't needed to. The silence between them said enough. In her sightline, a ruined village lay spread across the valley floor, nothing more than a cluster of mud brick homes and broken walls. It had been abandoned months ago, but drone footage showed movement, a figure darting through the ruins, using light and shadow as cover. The same figure that had put a bullet through Sergeant Vega's throat 2 days earlier. Riley knew who it was. Everyone did now. Rahim, the ghost sniper of Sanjan. He'd been killing Americans for nearly a decade. No one ever saw him twice. The locals said he could shoot a man through fog and vanish before the echo returned. He was a phantom with a rifle, a hunter who understood the terrain better than any satellite could. And now it was her turn to end him. The wind shifted. Riley's eyes narrowed. She adjusted the scope 1/4 click right, her breathing slow and measured. Each exhale matched the rhythm of her pulse, steady, unwavering. Her hands, though calloused and bruised, moved with precision born of repetition and pain. Movement, 2 o'clock, murmured one of the SEAL beside her, a younger man named Ortiz. His voice was low, reverent. He had stopped underestimating her long ago. "I see him," Riley said, almost whispering. Through her lens, a fragment of motion, a flicker between rubble and light. Then the glint of glass, the faint reflection of a scope. She exhaled, but she didn't shoot. Not yet. The glint vanished. A heartbeat passed, 2, 3. Then a single shot cracked across the valley, sharp, surgical. Dirt exploded inches from Ortiz's shoulder. He ducked, cursing. Riley didn't move. Her eyes traced the trajectory, calculating distance, elevation, crosswind. "Range, 700, she whispered. Ortiz froze, watching her. There was something eerie about her calm, like the world slowed around her while she stayed perfectly still. Riley's finger rested lightly on the trigger. She didn't blink. But Rahim was good, too good. The moment she lined her shot, his scope disappeared again. He knew how to bait, how to make her reveal position. "He's counter-sniping," she muttered. Harris' voice came through the radio from the command tent behind them, gravelly and strained. "Cross, you have green light. Take him out before he relocates." Her eyes stayed locked downrange. "He's not staying still. He's testing our positions. We shoot now, we lose him, then move." She glanced over her shoulder at the ridge, the loose shale, the exposed slope. Moving meant becoming a silhouette. Suicide. "Negative," she said. "He wants us to chase him uphill." There was a pause. The sound of the wind filled it. "Then softly," Harris replied. "Then make him chase you." Riley's lips curved into the faintest smirk. She liked that. Hours passed. The sun climbed high, burning away the mist. The seal rotated positions while she stayed still, watching, waiting. Sweat rolled down her neck, stinging the cut on her jaw. Every muscle in her body ached. But her mind stayed sharp, anchored by one thing: focus. By midday she spotted what she needed. The faint shimmer of heat above a ridge opposite the village. Mirage distortion. Someone was watching. She leaned close to the mic. "Found him." "Copy," Harris said. "Mark coordinates." "Negative. I'm going up. I'm going." Riley, but she was already on her feet, rifle slung, climbing the shale. The rock shifted beneath her boots, sending pebbles skittering down the slope. Every sound here could mean death. The clink of a buckle, the crunch of gravel. She moved like a shadow, low and deliberate. It was madness to go alone, but she had learned that some hunts couldn't be shared. At the crest she lay flat again, crawling through dust and scrub until her world narrowed once more to the cool metal circle of her scope. And there he was, Rahim. He was older than she'd expected, his face carved by sun and years of war. His rifle rested on a stone wall, his cheek pressed to the wood. His eyes were steady, patient, the eyes of someone who'd killed so often it had become a kind of prayer. For a long moment, neither moved. Two ghosts in the same breath of wind. Riley inhaled. Rahim's finger twitched. Both rifles fired at once. The bullets sliced through space, passing like whispers. Her scope shattered. The shot missed by less than an inch. She rolled, glass cutting into her cheek, adrenaline flooding her veins. He was good, damn good. But she was better. She reloaded fast, crawling sideways, counting seconds. Distance, 700 meters. Elevation, -20. Crosswind, 5 knots north. She knew he would reposition too. It was a dance of ghosts, invisible, lethal, inevitable. A rock cracked to her left. She swung her rifle. Nothing. Another to her right. He was flanking her. Riley dropped her rifle, pulled her sidearm, and moved low. The air was heavy with dust. The silence felt alive. She could almost hear his breath somewhere in it. Then, from behind, the faintest crunch of sand, she spun. Rahim stood 10 meters away, rifle slung, a pistol in his hand. His eyes met hers, calm, almost curious. He didn't speak, neither did she. Time stretched thin as glass between them. He raised his weapon. Riley fired first. One shot, clean, 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 final. Rahim fell to his knees, his pistol dropping into the dust. For a second he seemed to search her face. For hatred, maybe, or fear. But all he found was silence. She stepped forward and caught his shoulder as he fell. Laid him down gently. The desert swallowed the sound. When she returned to the outpost, the world felt smaller. The men looked at her differently now. Not with pity, not with awe, just quiet respect. Harris stood waiting by the gate, helmet under his arm. Eyes tired but steady. "You did it," he said simply. She nodded. You walked out there alone." "I wasn't alone," she said. Her gaze drifted toward the hills. "He was watching me the whole time. Testing me. He wanted to see if I'd break." Harris was silent. "He didn't hate us," Riley continued softly. "He just didn't stop fighting." There was something almost reverent in the way she said it. Not justification, but understanding. That night, she sat on the rooftop of the command post, the valley stretching endless before her. The sky burned orange at the edges, fading into blue. She could hear the faint murmur of the seal below, laughter breaking through exhaustion. For the first time in weeks, she smiled. There was no glory in this, no medal that could clean the blood or quiet the memories. But there was something else, a fragile kind of peace. In the silence, she pulled from her vest a small worn dog tag. Not hers, Vegas. She turned it over in her palm, the metal cool against her skin. "You'd have liked this view," she whispered. Then she set it down beside her rifle and watched the last light fade. Days later, the convoy rolled out. Dust trailed behind the Humvees as the outpost vanished into the distance. Riley sat in the lead vehicle, head resting against the glass, eyes closed. In her mind, she replayed the shot. Not the kill, but the stillness before it. The way the world had gone perfectly quiet. That was the moment she'd felt most alive, most human. Not the bullet, but the breath before it. The convoy stopped at a checkpoint, and a group of Afghan children came running, laughing, waving, eyes bright with curiosity. One boy, no older than 10, pointed to the patch on her sleeve. "Marine," he said in broken English, grinning. She smiled back. "Yeah," she said. "Marine." The boy saluted her, sharp and perfect. She returned it. As the truck rolled on, she looked back one last time at the hills. Somewhere up there, Rahim was buried in the same dust that had held them both. Enemies, perhaps, but also mirrors. Two snipers on opposite sides of the same silence. War had taken much, but it had given her something too. The understanding that strength wasn't in how loud you shouted, but how steady you stood when the world tried to break you. She didn't need to prove anything anymore. The seal knew. The Corps knew. And somewhere, beyond the ridgeline, the wind carried her name like a whisper through the sand. A soundless tribute to a woman who had fought, bled, and endured without ever needing to raise her voice. Riley Cross, Marine sniper, the one who walked past wounded and left the battlefield standing tall.